Ever wanted to become a football agent? The John Viola Academy is an elite training and education program designed by world-class football agents to create world-class football agents. With online courses, personal mentoring and much more, the John Viola Academy provides you with every opportunity needed to achieve your dream career in the beautiful game as a football agent. Head to jvacademy.net/football friends or click the link in our show notes to book a demo call with the team and start your journey today.
Mine tonight, play per over.
Depends. Will your friend, the footballer, be there?
Oh, friend, football friend! Oh, what a superb goal! Stefan Moore, that is extraordinary from Ben Garuccio.
You're listening to Football Friends with Ben Garuccio and Stefan Moore. Here's what's on its way this week. Sapsford silences Sydney, Wellington win in Auckland, and Ben asks Irankunda what the headband's all about. A-League Men's Round 5's big talking points are reviewed, including that shockingly poor Suncorp Stadium pitch. Hear the boys' take on what needs to be done. And to discuss the aforementioned and all other news from Brisbane, Zac Anderson joins us direct from the Orange and Black's headquarters. All that and more coming up on episode 7 of Football Friends.
Hello guys and welcome to another episode of Football Friends with Ben and Stef. Ben here and I'm joined by Stef as always. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me again, Ben. It's been a good week for me down here. No baby yet, but a few close calls. So any day now. The weather's been unbelievable actually until last night. Thunderstorms in Adelaide. So yeah, it's been a good week. Ready for another episode. You guys on the weekend went down to my boys Adelaide, although I must say probably should have been 6-3 to Western United. You actually created a lot of chances and just didn't put them away.
Yeah, it was one of those games, I suppose, like, look, we conceded the goal, which was probably on our part, like not too happy to concede a goal like that because Halloran was sort of not under enough pressure, and then he gets that shot away and it was not like a spectacular goal, but goes in. And then, after that, we're still in the game, creating quite a few chances. And then we get that goal back, which was not a great goal, not the prettiest goal you ever see, but Lockie Wales will still be happy with it. It goes next to his name on the stats. And then, to just cop that goal from a set piece, like a few minutes later, really kills it. But then we still had chances. Still had plenty of chances after that. And then even when it went 3-1, we still had a lot of chances. So look, on another day, but at the end of the day, I think from our side, you got to look at probably the goals that we concede and try and be a little bit harder to score against and to beat in that sense. But I think from a point of view of us with the ball, it's encouraging to see us creating that many chances. And if you create that many chances every game, then they're going to eventually translate to goals. But it's still disappointing to lose. It's 4 in a row now.
This is the uncensored version, so you don't need to speak to me like you speak into the media after a game. I don't.
You said that we created a lot of chances. I'm just echoing you.
Yeah, you sound like the coach after the game, but that's all right. I'll let you off. The fans want to hear the real stuff. They want to hear you coming into the changes after the game, losing it, saying how it's bullshit.
No, I wasn't. I actually wasn't. I wasn't. I'm usually that guy, to be honest. I'm the first one to probably get angry, and I think if I'm not angry, then, no one's really angry because, I'm usually the first one to crack the shits, to be honest. I hate fucking losing, but no, like, we did actually create a lot. So, and we played well, and it felt like that in the game. And obviously Adelaide are a good team, they're up there at the moment. And you've seen what they've done to teams like City and things like that. So, look, they still created because they're always going to create, and they were, they did score 3 goals. I'm not happy about that, but from our side, we did create a lot of chances. I think that's all you can really ask. If you're creating the chances, they're eventually going to go in. That's what I think.
Yeah, and some people hate the XG, but I think yours was like 2.45 and theirs was 1.5 or something like that. So it does show, it's not just the chances. I think the shots were the same, and everybody loves to hammer the XG and this player index and stuff. But it's a good thing to kind of reference. I think when you think you played a good game, and then that backs it up. But at the end of the day, football's decided by how many goals you score and how many you concede, and that's the most important stat. But like you said, it is okay for you guys. And on a positive note, you played well and kept Nesta pretty quiet, except for that one in the first half when he's just absolutely bullied you on the sideline and he's 17 years old and he's just pushing you aside like you weren't there.
I'm calling free kick there. I'm calling free kick. I came from behind him. I was like, "Did you know I was coming?" He's like, "Yeah, I knew." I was thinking, I don't think he knew I was coming. But yeah, there was another one where he did me as well. But I was getting forward quite a lot, and he wasn't really coming with me that much. And then there was one moment where he got it, and I was thinking, I'm gassed here. Like, I hope he doesn't get the ball. And as he's got it, he's like just dropped his shoulder and turned back the other way, and I was nowhere. But no, it was good, obviously, to. He's a top player, and I'm buzzing for him with the move that he's got, and it was good to play on him. And he is a good kid. I was speaking to him throughout the game quite a lot, and yeah, he's a really good guy.
What's with the bandana? But the headband. What's to go with that?
I said that to him in the second half. I said, "Where's the bandana gone?" He goes, "It was too tight." I said, "What? You signed for my Munich, now you start wearing a bandana?" He was like, I don't know. I was like, you don't even have long hair. You don't even have long hair. So, he's been the bandana off.
It's all right. And then we'll just quickly go through, before we get into the bigger news, we'll recap the other games. I guess we had Friday night, victory in Macarthur. 1-1 draw. Probably a good point for victory they showed again with going down to 10 men. They're going to be up there. And even Macarthur, they're doing well in the AFC Cup. They're doing well in the A-League. And then we went on to the Saturday fixtures and the main game, which was the derby. And you had Western Sydney taking that out. We'll quickly touch on the other games before we go into West Sydney. But Central Coast as well got their first win of the season, which was important win, I guess, for them after a new coach coming in, and Newcastle looked a little bit flat. Or who else was it? City lost to Wellington that day. Big Alex Paulson coming up big, saving the penalty of McLaren, a couple of other big saves. But the derby, the biggest game, probably the biggest game in the year, really, to be honest. The Sydney derby, I think, has overtaken the Melbourne one. What were your thoughts in watching that one? The atmosphere, the quality itself, Sapsford scoring the goal. What did you think about the game?
Yeah, no, I thought it was a top game. I was a little bit upset with the weather in Sydney. That sort of kind of did affect the crowd a little bit. You could see there was a few empty seats because everyone was expecting like a really big crowd, and it still was a good crowd. And I think, as you said, yeah, that Sydney derby has really stepped it up in the last few years, and that rivalry that the two clubs are building is special. And they're the games that you want to play in as a player, and they're the biggest games of the year. We said it last week, and unfortunately for our mate and our last guest, Brandon Varela, he got injured and taken off early. So I hope that he's going to be okay, and it's not so serious as probably what they first thought. But Western Sydney, I thought the quality of the game was really good. I think both teams played really well. It was a very, very entertaining game. I think Nick Milanovic has been looking really, really good for Western Sydney. And Rudin spoke about, the front four, how they were rotating around quite a lot. And yeah, as it turned out, Western Sydney, they took their chance, and I think it was unbelievable, well taken by Sapsford, to cut in like that and finish. And Dylan Perez got the assist. So yeah, they win that game. It's a big game. Those games there, it doesn't really matter how you've started the season. Those games, they're derbies, any team can win. And I think for Western Sydney, that's a big confidence booster again for them.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I think, like you said, you just want to win those games, but the quality was there. If it ended 0-0, it would have been an exciting 0-0 game. There's some 0-0 games where it's quite boring to watch, but that's something that you really need to make sure that you just want to win. You don't care how you play, and then really, as long as you get the 3 points, everybody's happy. So that's the biggest thing. Yeah. So you just want to win those big games, and Western Sydney now have probably, I think, cemented themselves as, in my eyes, them and Victory are probably the two top teams. Of course, it's still early in the season, but going on to Sunday's game, we have you guys, obviously. We don't need to touch on that again. We've already spoken about that, losing to Adelaide. And then Brisbane Roar against Perth Glory. And one of the hot topics was the pitch, which lines up perfectly with who we've got on this week in Zac Anderson. But before he gets here, we can kind of give our opinion, firstly on the game, which I think Brisbane, again, they looked to play football. It was hard to do. Sometimes I remember in the second half, Scott Neville went to play a ball into the 6, and it's like bobbled up, come off his ankle and gone straight to their striker. But they tried to play football. They ended up winning the game, probably deserved to as well. I think they created enough chances. But did you get to see much of that game, or were you on your way to Ballarat?
No, I was already at the game, and I got to see most of the first half up until half time, and didn't really see much of the second half. I was getting ready for the game. But yeah, look, if the biggest talking point to take out of the game is the condition of the football pitch in a bad sense, then that's not what we want. That's not what we want to be talking about. We want to be watching the games as a spectacle. We want to be, taking in and loving the quality of football that's being played. We want to see the atmosphere from a crowd. And yeah, I think there's been so much hype around Brisbane Roar coming back to Suncorp this season. And I think everyone was so happy about it because it's a great place to play football. It's a great place to watch football. It's a great stadium. And then to see the pitch in that condition, it's terrible.
Yes.
You don't want that. And it affects the quality of the game. It affects the spectacle on TV. It affects the spectacle when you're there at the game. But worst of all, it's dangerous for the players. And there was, there was a couple of injuries, Corey Brown.
Two, but
yeah. But there was another one where I saw Berenguer sort of was going down the line, went to cross the ball, and you just see the pitch, the way it chops up underneath you, and you're thinking, if you're off balance, if you cop a knock, and the pitch is like that underneath your feet, your ankle, your knee, it could be anything. Lucky there wasn't any serious injuries, but it's not what you want as a player.
Yeah, and the PFA came out with a pretty good statement, and it wasn't having a go at Brisbane Roar, it wasn't having a go at the groundskeeper for Suncorp Stadium, but just stating the fact that as a organisation, obviously the PFA is there for us as players. They want to protect us, and that's the number one thing, is safety, to be honest. And that pitch quality was honestly worse than I was at the Uni Loop here in Adelaide at the Adelaide University Fields on the weekend, and that was 10 times better. And that's a public park. And then you see this game on TV, which, like you touched on, if the biggest talking point is the field, there's a big issue, and it's just something that we seem to keep, I guess, talking about. Topics that we shouldn't be talking about, and it's hard because if we want to grow the game, all these other things need to be taken care of. So people aren't talking about the quality of the field or the stadium, and it's a great time, I guess, for us to have Zac on so he can kind of give us his thoughts on it. But it really is something where the Queensland government, I've got no problem, I guess, calling them out. They're probably not listening to this podcast anyway, but They've said, we want to have a legacy from the Women's World Cup. They were fortunate enough to be one of the cities that had Matildas games in, and you saw the pitch for those games when it was the Matildas or the other teams that were playing up there. It was like carpet because they obviously needed it to be. FIFA had this allocation. They had a block out. I know they need to make money. They need to generate money. No problems. But you've got Brisbane Roar, men's and women's team. You've got the national teams that can come up there. You're spending $2.7 billion on the Gabba for the Olympics when there's going to be plenty of teams up there playing in the men's under-23s or the women's Olympics. This is the time to build a second stadium that's actually fit for purpose. 15, 20,000. It doesn't need to be extravagant. It probably could cost a couple of $100 million in comparison to, what they're doing, whether it's Perry Park or, more work on Ballymore. So it's actually something that people can go and play at, and it's world class, but it's smaller. And that fixes the problem, so they can still have the entertainment, because it was the Jets as well. They had their game moved because of the motocross or the monster trucks. And you see the pitch and you just think, we're a paying tenant. We have to change our game now. So now the organisation looks like a joke. Do they do that for the other leagues? Do they do that for the AFL? Do they do that for the NRL? The pitch isn't as important for those teams, but we need good fields. So it's probably a lot of topics around that, APL, where, that people want to say we're private organizations, but you know what? We're actually developing the players to go and play for our national teams. And if that's the surface you've got, imagine, Waddingham, a young boy, touchwood, does his knee, or someone that's, maybe go on to play for the Socceroos or the Matildas, and they get seriously injured in that game. They can't go and play for their national team. Well, it's not just this, it's not a small thing for football. The pitch is everything, and for the quality of the game and also for injuries. So, yeah, something that needs to be done, whether the clubs look to invest in stadiums themselves, obviously costs a lot of money, but the government wants to leave a legacy. There's no bigger legacy than, creating it doesn't have to be football-specific stadium, but they play rugby union up there, maybe the smaller rugby league games. they can still play those at that stadium. They've got the gather round, whatever it's called, the Magic Round in rugby league that they do in Queensland. Another perfect stadium for it in Brisbane. So let's see if Anastasia Palachuk listens to the Football Friends podcast. She knows exactly how I think.
No, I rate it. I don't think that would have happened in between Women's World Cup games, and it's like the sensible thing with the Central Coast and Newcastle game was to move the location, to move it to Industry Group Stadium, and they played. It's a good surface, and that's the sensible thing to do. Obviously, for this game, and as you said, we're not blaming. This isn't Brisbane Roar's fault. This isn't the groundskeeper's fault. I don't think you could have got the groundskeepers from Wembley. They wouldn't have been able to get that grass looking any better or in any better condition for that game, because when you've got grass that's been covered for 5 days a week, what do you expect? You got monster trucks going over the surface. Like, you can't expect that it's going to be a good, perfect to play football afterwards. So, yeah, as I said, we don't want to talk about it too much, but it is disappointing to see, and hopefully there can be something that can resolve this, because they're playing again there on Friday, and I don't see how the pitch is going to be in much better condition by Friday night. So
get the lights out. You know what? I think FIFA. I remember seeing something. FIFA taught them these different techniques, but like you said, it's very hard to turn water into wine as such like this. But if they can get it in, using the lights, and if the weather's great, I don't know what it's like in Brisbane. I think it might have been raining, so that doesn't help. But it's just disappointing because this is something where it affects everything. It's not just a small thing, but it is. This could turn people off the game because it's another negative thing. So it's a flow-on effect of that turns people off the game from going to watch a game, and then you lose revenue and you can't grow. Where if everything's going well and in the right direction, Brisbane Roar, people are probably walking away being like, oh, it's great to be back at Suncorp. We almost had 10,000 there. We won. They keep winning. They're playing well. Instead, you probably have half the people saying, bloody hell, that was a shambles. Look at the pitch. It's a disgrace. So instead of, if they're 50-50 on going next Friday night, they probably think, I'll stay at home, or I'll go to the pub. So I hope that's not the case, but that's the potential of it. So, it's not just that initial game there. It's like there's loss of revenue going forward. And if you're a paying tenant, if you're paying for something, you want it in its proper condition. I don't know how those terms work, but if I'm Brisbane Roar, and maybe we can ask Zac about that in a second, if it's not the right standard, why should I have to pay for it? Because it's not acceptable. But that's enough of that before we get Zac in and we go into his career.
Free header and a goal. Zac Anderson will find a free kick, and it's in for the Central Coast. And Zac Anderson scores the equaliser.
Our Guest of the Week segment is brought to you by the John Viola Academy. Head to jvacademy.net/football friends to start your football agent journey.
And welcoming in our Guest of the Week, brought to you by the John Viola Academy, Zac Anderson. How are you? And thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, lads. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Zac. Good to have you on. Love the work you're doing at the moment at the Raw. It's been really positive, so thanks for coming on. We'll start, I suppose, with your playing career. Obviously, talk to us a little bit about, we don't really know about your junior days, but obviously your professional career at Gold Coast United, the Mariners and Sydney FC, and obviously a couple of stints in Asia as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, boys, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come on, and congratulations to everything you guys are doing. I think it's great to have footballers speaking to footballers and giving a platform just to be able to have an honest and candid conversation. But yeah, no, I enjoyed my career. I got the most out of my body and my mind whilst I was playing. But yeah, I was a pretty average squad player, but I really enjoyed football. Very much like yourselves. I just enjoyed being in the change rooms. I enjoyed being a part of a team, and I got the opportunity to play Gold Coast United with arguably probably the best team on paper with the likes of Chelina and Smelty and Thwaitie, and that opportunity to have an owner in Clive Palmer was a really interesting experience, and probably the first time that kind of opened my eyes to I guess the business behind sport, and then going down to Central Coast, which was a really nice chapter in terms of the opportunity to play for a fantastic manager in Arnie, and a completely different culture. A team necessarily on paper not the finest, but I guess a collective culture of a real family bond. So had a great 3 years at Mariners, and then had a year stint at Sydney FC, which really, like most players, you kind of go up through your ups and downs. And I got to that point as a player where I probably realised that I wasn't going to reach the heights that I potentially wanted to. So got to a point where just, I guess like most footballers, you make a decision whether you're going to stay in Australia, go to Asia, go to Europe, or what you can potentially do. And so I got the opportunity to go to Dubai. Had a I guess a difficult period in Dubai again. First time leaving Australia at 24 years old. Went through the process that you go through as a footballer, out of favour with a manager. So cut my I guess my story short, in Dubai, I moved to Malaysia, and that was probably the first time in my career where I played week in, week out, really enjoyed the football, played in front of 30, 40,000 fans a week, and I guess got to really appreciate football in Asia. And as you both are well aware, you get to a point where in your career that you just want to play week in, week out. You don't, you kind of get sick of sitting on the bench, and I just really enjoyed that moment whilst I was playing regularly. So stayed in Malaysia for a couple of years, and by this point, I just didn't want to, I guess, come back to Australia and be another squad player. I felt like my career was coming to an end, not necessarily because I wanted it to, but just because of my own expectations and what I really wanted to get out of my career. So started to study, started to get really intrigued in business, started to upskill as much as possible, started to network, and I've just found myself traveling a lot from Malaysia to Singapore. The reason for that was in 2016, 2017, a lot was going on in Hong Kong, and a lot of the Hongkonese money was moving to Singapore. So a lot of business was getting done in Singapore. I was really interested in investment banking, and at this time, as much as I enjoyed playing football and keeping fit, I was more interested in business. So I took a visa. I took a contract in Singapore, mainly just to have a visa, just so I could start business. And I think I was 27 years old. Everyone was like, "Zach, you're crazy. Like, you're 27. Like, why don't you come back to the A League?" But it just really didn't interest me. I just had this fire inside of me to be a first team player, and unfortunately, I just didn't have, I guess, the capability to play week in, week out at the level that I wanted to. So decided to just kind of switch my focus and really utilize those skills that we have all acquired in sport to just focus that attention on business. So I set up an investment firm in Singapore with a couple of other investment bankers. We started to invest quite heavily in Singaporean SMEs. So looked at a cafe franchise. I set up a PR company, set up a multimedia company, looked at other different agnostic ideas and businesses that we could look to find value. And so I grew that business from, at the start of a pretty small, initially a seed investment, to something that I was quite proud of. And I exited that investment firm around 3.5 years later. So I was doing all of that whilst playing football in Singapore. Singapore football was quite similar to playing NPL in Australia. Just kind of have a kick in the morning, go for a copy with the lads, and then go to work. And it was at this time that I actually joined back up with Kaz Batafta, because he was running his law firm out of Singapore, and we would sit down and I was actually going to his office doing a lot of work, and we would just talk football as you do, talk different world sporting matters and other business ideas, and I would help him with some of the things that he was doing, and I did that, and then got stuck with COVID. So went through that period of living abroad as an expat during COVID, and got to a point where I just realized that living abroad was just going to be too difficult during this time. As we all knew, we just didn't know when COVID was going to end. So I guess just to finish on that question, Benny, my football career kind of started just out of school. It ended quite abruptly. A lot of people, from my family and football circles were quite confused why I finished so early. But I guess as individuals, we all kind of know what we want from our careers, and I think that some players seem to hang on and just really want to keep playing. For me, I was just really interested in just being the best version of myself. Driving, my football career is hard, and as long as I could, trying to maintain the level that I wanted to maintain. But then once I got to a point that I just didn't feel like I, was really getting the most out of myself, I decided just to move on and try other things.
Yeah, and that's really, I guess, really good to hear it from your, you can look on Wikipedia, you can look at different articles, and you can kind of hear from other people about, yourself or different players, but everybody's got a story. Everybody's story is a bit different, and it's pretty, insightful for the listeners to hear about, your probably realistic approach, where some players, as you would have played with, some people's ambition and ability doesn't match up. And you always need to be your biggest believer. If you don't believe in yourself, then no one else is going to. But I think we've all got a ceiling, and you all need to be realistic. The older you get, the more you start to think about, well, what's happening after football, financial decisions. Like you said, you can be a squad player in the A-League, earning okay money. You live a great life in Australia. It's easy, comfortable. Or you go to Asia, open up different networks. Potentially financially, you can actually earn a lot more there. But it's it's really, really cool, I guess, to hear that. And that's probably what set you up so early in your business career to go into a role that you're in right now, because a lot of other people in their mid 30s or early 30s wouldn't be in the role that you're in today. So really, really interesting to hear about that. One thing I guess I want to touch on just quickly around that is Clive Palmer up at the Gold Coast United. We had Dylan McAllister with us when we were both at Melbourne Heart, and he told us some decent stories. But what's a story that I guess sticks out for you? Something that the listeners would love to hear about. It can be something really positive or something really negative, but something that's gonna kind of get them interested.
Guys, Clive was brilliant. I know that everyone hammers Clive and others like your Tinklers for being a little bit different, but that's what I love about these individuals. For me, it's all about embracing individuals and personality. When I speak to different footballers or different personalities, I've always mentioned, like, if you love Chinese food, then just go out and tell everyone you love Chinese food. Like, there's nothing you don't need to hide or try and be someone else. And that was what I loved about Clive. It may be in the fact that he had been so successful, but he was just uniquely Clive. And no matter if he was coming to TSS to see us at training, or he was inviting us on his private jet, he was just himself. And from being a young player, I had an amazing relationship with Clive. He gave me my first opportunity to play professional football, and the story goes that, just like we all have stories of how our first professional contracts came about, I was playing in the youth team. I was playing in a brilliant youth team, and he decided to come. We're playing in a local park, against, I think it was Melbourne Victory youth team at the day when the National Youth League was on, and I scored a header that day. And apparently he just looked over at Miron Bleiberg and said, "Sign him." And I had a headband on. I was surfing every day, and and Miron comes over to me at the end of the game, and says, "Zach, you need to be at first team training tomorrow." And I was a bit taken back. Went to first team training tomorrow, and Jason Chalina had hurt his calf, and the next week I was starting as number 6 against Adelaide United at Hindmarsh. So it's amazing how I think football is incredible how you can evolve so quickly. But Clive was one of those just larger than life characters that just if you gave him everything, he would look after you. And the simple example of that was, we won the youth league, and he literally just opened up his compound for us, which he owned a golf course and a lot of other property. And he just literally just said to the lads, "Guys, it's yours for the night. Just do what you want to do." And I'll leave it at that for the story.
Yeah, wow. No video footage from that one is allowed to ever come out.
You have to ask Benny Haller and Chrissy Harold of their footage. I'm sure they've got the cameras out.
That's quality. I was speaking to Stevie Lustica today at training actually, and I said, we're getting Zac Anderson on it today, and he goes, "Oh, what a guy!" He goes, "Yeah, I played with him at Gold Coast. We won the youth league together." And I actually remember we were at the AIS, and I remember when you were playing Gold Coast United, like there was no chance you were winning. I remember we got spanked by you guys that many times in the AIS, and yeah, you guys obviously you did win it. But no,
it's funny, hey, Benny. Yeah, it's funny when you play those teams. Like, I remember being not in the AIS, but being in a team when you go up against just another great younger team, and that's the beautiful thing that we have in that football family now is we've all kind of played against each other at different moments. We've all kind of seen our careers kind of move on to different clubs or different things. But you look back at those moments, and I think about playing with Lusty and your Harolds and your Chris and your Benny Hallerans and like. Those players have had incredible careers like you both have as well, but those moments you look back on, you wish you could bowl it up because they were just such an amazing. There were moments in time where we were all earning zero, but but amazing times playing football together.
Yeah, exactly. They're the ones that shape your career, I suppose. Like they're the ones that you maybe don't take dollars and cents away from, but you take the experience and you have your friendships and. Like you said, Australia's a small place. You play against nearly everyone. You sort of know a story about everyone, and it is nice to have those stories at the end of your career.
No, absolutely. It's the thing that when you leave football, I think that the most important thing for me was just leaving with your integrity and knowing the person that you are, because at the end of the day, as footballers, I believe that you're an actor in a way. You're a different person on the pitch than you are off, and I think you have to be. And for me, what I always prided myself on was, I'd go on the pitch, I'd give my all, but when I walked off, I was a good human being. And today, I've just got those relationships that are long lasting, even though like your Lusties, you don't see them every week, but when you do in pre-season down at Meakin Park, it's nice to be able to say hello. So. No, those times are amazing, and they do shape you, and they do definitely translate into life after football.
Yeah, that's you hit the nail on the head there. I think that's, especially with Australian football, it's such a small pool of players and coaches and staff. So yeah, on the field you're completely different, but off the field, you want to have good relationships because you just never know where you're going to end up, and making sure that of course you've got to be a good person first and foremost. But if you are, someone's always going to help you out. And you've seen with different coaches like Ange along the journey, he keeps helping these other coaches out. Or, it could be, like yourself, maybe you want to give an opportunity to someone to come in as a youth coach. If you know them as a person, you're more inclined to give them that regardless of what they've done in the coaching sense, because they're a good person. So it's, it's great to hear. And I think we lost 8-2 one time, Ben. I was at the AIS. I reckon I was against Gold Coast. I was captain that day, thinking, oh, good performance here. We lost 8-2. And then I started doing another session after the game. I was so angry. I think I was crying, to be honest. So I was like, fucking, what am I doing with my life?
Tough days down in Canberra for you both.
It was, we were like 15. And when you play against you guys, you were all A-League players. Like, it was like, you guys Central Coast, there was a couple like different
Brisbane Raw.
Yeah, but
Brisbane Raw.
Yeah, but Steph, look at where you both are now. And this is the thing this is why I'm pushing so far. Like, seriously, this is why I'm pushing so hard now for a National Youth League to come back, because those experiences that you had at 15, 16, the hurt that you felt to lose 8-2 to a good team. Like, but at the end of the day, I was probably 18 or 19 years old. So the young boys don't get those experiences now. And this is why I think that the league needs to really look at the opportunity to be able to give these 15, 16-year-old boys, because now, like, think about your careers if you hadn't have gone through that process of playing 3 years ahead, playing against national team players, playing against men in a way. And I think that that now developed, gave you guys the platform to be able to go and have the careers that you've both had. So I hope we get to a point that those competitions come back, because I think that it really helped a generation of talent really prosper.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And even now, like, you guys, you've got young Waddingham that's getting an opportunity. And back in our day, like, you're obviously only a couple of years older than us, but there wasn't a lot of opportunities for young players, and it was a lot harder to break through. Now I think we're probably changing, where you've either got your really experienced good A-League players, your squad players probably are getting stiffed a little bit because, if you're a club, you're thinking, well, if we get a 25, 26-year-old that's going to be a squad player, we'd prefer to, get a 16, 17-year-old that we can sell, which is great. But again, you've got those other ones that aren't actually able to play in the A-League, that they need youth league games. They need to play against other players their age, but still be in a pressure environment where you're playing against other A-League players, not NPL players, because NPL from A-League, it's two different styles of football.
No, there's a big gap. There's a big gap. And it's been a lesson. It's been an eye opener for me because, to be honest, when I came in, I played a year in the NPL just to kind of finish my career and tick over and keep fit. And as much as I enjoy the gym, there's nothing beats just running around kicking a football. So I actually thought, just playing in that year in NPL, I thought, a lot of these players could probably go on and play professional football, but I do think there's still quite a large gap, and I do hope the NSD, once it comes on board, does bridge that gap in a way. But I think that the conversation more broadly is that the people are starting to appreciate where the A-League is as a competition, and I think it's really important for us now to recognise that we can't become a competition of 15 and 16-year-olds. But what we need to be very clear, and this is what we've done at Brisbane Roar since Kaz and I have come on board, is that looking from the outside and having conversations with other executives and other owners, is that clubs just need to be very true to what their DNA is. And if your DNA is to win the league, then it's very difficult to go. And also, when I say your DNA, or what is your mission? What is your focus for this point in time? You create your DNA around it. So for us as a club, we're trying to become, sustainable and financially viable to be able to then take the next step of maintaining success. Because what's really frustrated me looking from the outside in is that Brisbane Roar had this 2, 3, 4 years of really good success, Stef, and you've been a part of success at this football club as well. And I think that the frustration for us is that 10 years on, all that success is something that's just been a part of history, but the club's not evolved. My boys and the girls, we still go from training ground to training ground. We're still playing out of Suncorp Stadium, paying huge fees and having troubles with pitches because, Suncorp Stadium is a commercial business. And of course they're going to take money from concerts, right? So I think that where we are today is we've got to be really honest with ourselves as where we are as a league and where we are as a competition. And what Kaz and I have tried to do coming on board at this football club is say, hey, this is our DNA. Our DNA is we want to be a club that identifies, nurtures and develops young talent, but that does not mean for a second that we just have a team of 15 and 16-year-olds. To develop and nurture and help young talent, you've got to have really good experienced pros. So then your whole model looks at, well, if you're going to go and you're going to really target the best young talent, give them a platform to be the best versions of themselves, what experienced and stable and product players around those project players are you going to get on board to help that talent progress? Now, as you both know, to create a winning culture, those young players, just like yourselves being 15 and 16, you thought you knew what winning was, but you don't really know what winning is, right? Until you get in a change room with really experienced pros, like we've all been, and they really show you what winning, what standards are, right? What 1%ers are, what it means to be late for training. Those things we didn't get from necessarily all of our coaches. We got it from being in change rooms with experienced players, right? And I think the three of us were really blessed in a way that we were a part of a generation and we really got taught that. And I hope that now when I speak to your Jackie Hingetts and your Scotty Nevilles, I see them making sure that those Tommy Waddinghams, your Scotty McNichols, those guys are really seeing what it means to be a professional footballer and what it takes to really to go on. So I guess from a Brisbane Roar perspective, our focus on nurturing, developing young talent is to be a net exporter of talent because we see that as a huge vertical and a competitive advantage as a business that other codes don't have. So we absolutely have to look at that vertical, but it's not the only thing we're focusing on because at the end of the day, we're not an NPL club, right? We're a professional club that has an ambition to win titles, but we also can't get ahead of ourselves and go, right, all we're going to do this year is focus on trying to win every game because we saw what happened in the last 10 years. That foundation wasn't there. So for us, it's about getting that financial foundation, understanding what we are as a football club, connecting with our community and understanding and evolving our brand, and then really honing in on that foundation, developing the football club so that success can stay here for years in the future.
Yeah, you've have you read our run sheet? You've just gone through all our dot points.
Now all your points were done.
Everything. So it's It's cool. And you know what? You're speaking like that, and I think that's something that me and Ben spoke about off air is the transparency that you've tried to show, I guess, to the fans who are, the big, I guess, the big people that sometimes get forgotten behind. That they're the ones. Without them, it's hard to kind of have a football club that's sustainable and that's growing. So you've obviously made a big point of that. Was that something, when you and Kaz, take us back to that, when you first both, you got the gig, you're going up there. Was that something you spoke about between yourselves, that we need to be as open, as honest as
Yep.
possible to win the trust back?
Absolutely. I think one of our first conversations when we got the green light from the Bakery Group was to win back the trust and support of our community and our fan base. We need to be overly transparent, and we need to bring people on the journey. I'm treating this role like this is this. I actually own the club. Every dollar that we spend, I feel like it's my money that I'm spending, and that those values I've tried to instill into every single employee that we have in this business, because right now, with full transparency again, what this club has lacked over a long period of time is just telling everyone how good we are or how good a situation may be, but then just cover up or paint over every crack. And I think that what people appreciate is just honesty. If things aren't going well, just be honest and own those mistakes, be accountable, and just say to your fan group, your supporter base, hey, we haven't done this well. We're looking to improve. This is how we're going to improve. It's almost like past, present, and future. This is what happened. This is where we are today. This is where we're going. And so when we started here 3 months ago, Kaz and I made a pact to each other, and we spoke about this to our employees on our very first days, that we need to have a culture of accountability and taking responsibility for everything that goes right and wrong at this football club. If things aren't going right, let's flag it together, let's work together, let's fix it, because at the end of the day, we're human beings. We're not going to be perfect. This football club's not perfect, but we've got to get rid of the arrogance. We've got to get rid of this. We're a professional club. We're the only club in Queensland. Forget about it. At the end of the day, we're no bigger than any other NPL community club. At the end of the day, like you said, Steph, without our fans, without our supporters, without our volunteers, there is absolutely no football club. So what's been really exciting for Kaz and I over the last 3 months is that when we arrived, we had, the team was playing in Redcliffe in front of 2,500. We decided that, being Brisbane, we got to be proud of Brisbane. We've got to bring back the Brisbane supporter base. And that really was a light bulb moment for me when I went with my wife to the FIFA Women's World Cup and saw Australia play France in front of 55,000 people. I saw, young girls getting autographs from Tamiki Ellips, and I saw that connection. And a lot of the time in business, you don't need to always reinvent the wheel. What you need to do is you need to recognize when other businesses are doing things well. And for me, what I saw from what FA and Matildas did really well through the FIFA Women's World Cup was they connected with community. They connected with their supporter base, and they really got the messaging right in what you're being a part of. And for the Matildas, it was being a part of a bigger purpose. You were actually going to support women's sport. You're going to support women's football. You weren't just going to a football match. You're going to support something special and something you're a part of change. And I think that for Kaz and I coming back and being in the role that we're in today, we have a unique challenge, because we're taking over a distressed business. We're taking over an organization that, over the last couple of years, has kind of been left to one side, and not really shown much love. And our fans, supporters, volunteers, stakeholders don't deserve it. This club is very, very special to a lot of people, and very, very special to Australian football. And so for us, it's about getting rid of the arrogance. It's about being honest, uniquely ourselves, and bringing our supporter base, our fan base, with us on the journey. No matter the ups, the downs, as you both know, you've got to remain neutral through a lot of the process. But I think it's exciting for us is that we're bringing people on the journey with us. And you're going to win games, against Perth Glory, or you're going to win games against Sydney FC. But there will be times that we do lose games, and you got to have those fans and supporters with you as well. So I'm really excited that we're starting to see the kids come back to Suncorp. Seeing our women's memberships go from 78 last year to 2,500 this year. There's just such a great momentum building, and I just think that we've got that connection back to the fan base, and now it's just about building on it, giving more value, keeping connecting with our fan base and making sure that our players and our fans just feel like one family.
Yeah, that's great. Do you want to go, Ben, and ask the
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah, no, I love it, to be honest. Like, massive hats off, to not just you and Kaz, obviously Ross. I think a club is a football club. That's what it is. It's an organization. It's not one or two people. I think it needs to be from the ceiling down. It has to be run right. People need to be on the same page, and I think that's something that you guys have done a great job at so far. And obviously, you spoke about the transparency. You spoke about, I suppose, the vision and the mission of the club and what it wants to be. But probably a lot of people don't know about this, but there is surveys that come out at the end of the season from the Players Association and things like that. And something that I noticed was that Brisbane Roar, and you spoke about it, it's a bit of a sleeping giant. It's a club that hasn't really moved forward. Now, at the start of my career, if Ange Postecoglou had called me and said, "Do you want to come to Brisbane Roar?" I would have been going, like, this is the top of the top in the A-League. This is what an opportunity. And throughout as the years have gone by, it's kind of been like, Brisbane Roar. And like you said, it's a distressed business, and that's been the job of you guys. But one of the key takeaways from those surveys was players were saying that it's not a club that they would recommend. So I think it was actually the lowest in the whole league in the A-League men's. I think the A-League women's was quite a bit higher, and that's another interesting point. The women's was a lot higher than the men's, but that players that are actually at the club wouldn't recommend the club. What were, I suppose, you spoke about those couple of things, but what were the key things, when you came in? Obviously, you guys know this, it's all in-house, that the way the players are feeling. I suppose, what were the main points when you came in that you go, okay, this needs to change? You've seen culture throughout your career. You've seen good cultures. You've probably seen bad cultures. What were the things, I suppose, that you've taken from your playing career and you came in and said, this is what needs to change?
So we sat down, Kaz and I had a meeting with Johnny McCain and Bo Bush at a cafe just up the road from the offices when we just came on board. And before Bo got out the laptop to actually show us the surveys, because I wasn't privy to it, we gave them both we obviously had pre-existing relationships with them both, but we went through and we articulated, this is where we are today and this is where we wanted to go. And Bo showed us the surveys, and for me, it was one of those moments where, as much as I knew it, it was great to see it on a presentation, to actually really see visually, right, this is where we are as a football club. And from that moment, Kaz and I came back to the boardroom, we sat down, and we knew straight away the 3 or 4 things that we needed to change. And the first one was just getting rid of this toxic blaming culture that it's not my job, it's someone else's job. Now, both of working, being footballers at professional clubs, we're not overly resourced, right? So, at Brisbane Roar, we've got, right now in my office, we've got 15 staff that run our whole football organisation. We run match day. We obviously, we've got, marketing department, commercial department, finance, match day ops, etc., etc. But that is my team, right? So the first thing was getting rid of this toxic blaming culture that, I can't, don't go to XYZ, you need to go and speak to this person, and getting that sense of accountability that, okay, it may not be my job, but I will roll up the sleeves to be able to help you get the job done, or someone else. So that was the first thing. The second thing that was very evident when we came was that our players just didn't have a home. So, as you both know, being footballers, going to training with your wash bag, not even necessarily taking your boots, is a massive thing for a footballer. Just feeling like you've got a home, and you have that consistency with all the um, uh, you know um, different things that are going on in your world, the pressures of playing professional sport. I think it's really important for players to feel like every day they know where they're going to train, and they can get out of the suitcase in a way, and they can just go to work and put in the hours and then go home and rest. So both for our A-League men's, the discrepancy between our A-League men's and our A-League women's was our women had a fantastic training base out at Cusack, where our men had 17 training locations over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Because of the decisions of the past of the management, they were just cutting corners, to be quite frank. So we got to a point, Kaz and I, and again, with full transparency, we're not where we want to be today, but we decided that the first thing we need to do was get our A-League men's a base. So we worked very closely with Queensland Rugby Union, because the interesting part, and this is I guess adds to the soup of the Brisbane Roar, is because of the fractured relationships that had transpired over the last couple of years. No one wanted to take us. Doesn't matter how much money that Kaz and I would have thrown on the table to actually get our men a good training base. No one wanted to have our men's training at their training ground, with the lack of facilities here in Brisbane or Queensland, or the amount of traffic on pitch. The 3 or 4 places we believe we could actually train, no one wanted to take us. So again, we had to sit down, reform these relationships, explain to people where we were going, what we wanted to do, and we were very, very fortunate in a way that Queensland Rugby Union at Ballymore took us on board, and we signed an agreement to have our men's training base locked in there for 2 years, and we've been working closely with them to get the pitch to the standard that that you both know is acceptable, and at the same time leaving our A-League women's at Cusack. Now, where we are today is that process is still ongoing. Our men are now moved to Cusack, so we've got a venue that our A-League men and our A-League women are training at every day, which is obviously fantastic. You've got a world-class pitch, world-class facility, and in the background, we're working on a 2 to 5 year vision of, well, where's our base going to be long term? And so we've got a high performance centre being built at Brendale alongside the Moreton Bay Regional Council, a $12 million facility. I was just out there this morning with the councillors looking at that facility, and it is absolutely state of the art. So our A-League women's will most likely move there at the end of the season, June, July of next year. And then for our A-League men's, we're looking at what we can do next for them, if it will be to keep them at Cusack, or to potentially build a high-performance centre at Ballymore. But I guess these are all the higher level strategic decisions that are going on day to day, and at the same time we're living in the micro as well, right? So when I look at that PFA report and I think, right, how can we get to a point really quickly? As much as I'm trying to look longer term, how can I get really quickly and improve these standards? I think that culture was the first one that we really needed to change, and then the second one was just finding our players at home.
Yeah, no,
No,
that's sounds good.
Right.
I guess for players, I think, as we all know, when you're a player, you understand sometimes some of the restrictions we do have as clubs because of money. But you're being honest to the fans, but being honest to the players as well. And if you tell them what you're trying to do and you back it up by showing it,
Yeah.
you know what? If you do have to change training base, of course it's a bit of a hassle, but you know that you're trying to do the best for them. So as a player, you think, well, you know what? It is what it is then. We need to get on with it. Let's use this as kind of something that's going to fuel us to get us tighter together. We're going through it a bit harder than your Melbourne Cities or your Sydney FCs or Victories. But this doesn't mean we can't beat them on the weekend. So it's great to hear that you're so open, obviously, to us, which I'm sure that goes on to the fans, as you've seen in your statements, and then the players. But we'll go into the questions.
Just on that point, I think it's really interesting. One of the things that I recognise as difficult as this period's been, there's been a sense of resiliency that I think that this club now has, and it's unique. I've spoken to both the men's and the women's about this, and our NPL and under 23 squads have just started. But it's incredible that there's been this sense of resiliency because of the fact that they haven't had the facilities that other clubs have had or other players have had. That now that they're starting to get those minimum standards that all players deserve, now this, I guess, wave of momentum, because they've gone through a difficult patch. Now that they've been given a platform, I think that it will actually hold our playing group in really good stead moving forward.
Yeah,
I appreciate it so much more.
Yeah,
exactly.
And very, very evident with I guess both of the teams starting the season relatively well. So we don't want to keep you for too much longer, but one of the stadiums is, and this will be an interesting one, the questions from Aussie Stadium. Massive Roar supporter. Hi, Zach. Massive Roar supporter from regional Queensland here. Are there any plans for a regional A-League game like the game in Cairns a few years ago? I'd love to see a game at Brown Park after that redevelopment kicks off in a few months.
Yeah, brilliant question. So we are working with a lot of key stakeholders at the moment around, how we can play more regional matches. This year, the big push and the real focus for us was to get back to Suncorp. I think that the decision to go to KO and playing Redcliffe was a wrong one. I understand the financial reasoning behind wanting to move to KO, but we're Brisbane Roar guys. Like when I speak to key partners or key sponsors, up here in Queensland, where everyone talks about the Broncos being if you think about rugby league, you think of Broncos, you think of AFL, you think of Lions. When you think of soccer, right now it's a little bit like, oh, I'm not really sure, right? We've got to get back to being like, well, Brisbane. I'm a supporter of Brisbane Roar, so the big push for us this year was to get back from KO, get back to Suncorp Stadium. We have brought our women's team from playing north as well to being back at Perry Park, which is fantastic. We went in pre-season to Wide Bay, which is fantastic to just take the team away for a couple of days. But as you both know, just like the glory in Western Australia, we've got, we're the only professional team in the state. But first and foremost, we've got to get Brisbane right before we can start getting Queensland right. And I think that the message to our fans this year is that we're very, very focused on getting and reconnecting with Brisbane. And then as we build on those foundations, we are looking to really, reconnect with our regional partners. But absolutely, I'm a North Queensland boy. I was born up in North Queensland. Playing in the great I guess stadiums in Townsville and Cairns is a real focus for us as well. But I guess in the short term, we're just making sure that we can really rebuild the foundations, and it's exciting to be back at Suncorp.
Yeah, which I think is fair enough. And you got almost 10,000 there on the weekend. Big game on Friday night. Hopefully, you're pushing. I'm always very optimistic. Hopefully, you're pushing that 12,000 Friday night. So weather's good in Brisbane. It's a massive game, obviously, for you guys. But Ben, you can ask the second question from Thomas Pellegrini.
Yeah, we got from Thomas. Big admirer of the work you and Kaz have been doing at the Raw. What are your thoughts on the prospect of NSD clubs such as Brisbane United, Gold Coast, and Sunshine Coast Fire? And do you view them as a threat to Raw or a potential opportunity to build rivalries?
Yeah, no, I'm actually a big fan of the NSD. I think that what the National Second Division will do is really bridge that gap between NPL and professional football. And as we all know, the game needs more opportunity for players. It needs more opportunity for coaches. It needs more opportunity for referees and administration. So for me, I see it as a huge opportunity to really bridge that gap and build the pyramid in football in Australia. And I'm also a big believer, just from being in the seat for 5 minutes, is that we've almost got to go one step backwards to go two steps forward. And what I mean by that is I believe that we've really got to increase the matchday experience, and by doing that, look at playing in these smaller boutique stadiums or at local grounds in pre-season. Probably my two favourite games was at Perry Park against Wanderers, and the other one was in Melbourne against Melbourne Knights, and they were both in great, very well-known historic NSL stadiums. And so I'm really excited to see that culture develop. Really historic and well-known clubs become a part of what we're building in this country. And for me, it's about bringing football together. I think for a long time there's been a divide. We've obviously had the unbundling from FA and APL, but for now, I think what's really important is football needs to unite. We need to come together. We need to work together. And I think that for us, we'd love to be able to see a couple of Queensland teams enter the NSD, and I'm sure we'll see that in 2025.
Yes, brilliant. I think you've spoken like a lot of players that are in the game say the same thing. I think the second division, though, there needs to be more opportunities for players because, people like yourself, maybe you could have back in the day, instead of going to Asia, you could have dropped down to that second division, kind of got those match minutes in, and then, another team takes a punt on you because they see you've actually played, where if you're a squad player and you're overage, you're not getting games anywhere. So it's massive for everyone in the game. And hopefully something that I'm really big on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, is getting the funding for the game and getting some second division sides in. Queensland, obviously, and I don't want to throw you under the bus here, but, they were very big in saying they want a legacy from the Women's World Cup. You've got the Olympics coming up. There's no bigger legacy than building, building up on Perry Park or whatever it is, to actually give, Brisbane Roar. It doesn't have to be just their home, but, maybe smaller Matildas games or, the women's and men's team. They need something so they can hold these events and different functions at Suncorp, but you guys can have 10, 15, 20,000 in a, fit for purpose stadium, and everyone benefits. And Brisbane's only growing, as you know, the city's getting bigger. So I think that needs to come as well.
No, Brisbane is pumping. I've only been back for 2 years since living in Singapore, and it's amazed me since I left school here in 2008, how much Brisbane is pumping. It's definitely off the back of the difficult years during COVID. But yeah, this I guess political discussion at the moment, Kaz and I are very much involved in, is something that probably needs a whole nother podcast. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, and Kaz and I have kind of been thrown into a bit of a ring of fire at the moment because yeah, we absolutely need funding and more infrastructure. As I've just articulated on this pod, we've had real difficulties finding training facilities, and bringing the club back to Suncorp was a really difficult commercial decision for us. But we believed, in where we're going, and we believed in the brand that we wanting to rebuild, and we believe that Suncorp is it's kind of edged in Brisbane Roar history that you kind of. I remember playing against Brisbane Roar for other teams, and it's just such a difficult place to play. It's just got that nostalgia and history about it. And so for Kaz and I, albeit it was a difficult financial decision to play at Suncorp, it was the right decision in terms of rebuilding the brand. So I do believe that football in this state and in the city, absolutely deserves public support, and I believe that there's a lot of conversation at the moment around that, and I do believe in the foreseeable future we'll see that. We've got a state election next year in Q3, and I think that we've got a lot of momentum to really seeing bipartisan support to see more football infrastructure, and being a football purist, I've copped a lot of flack for taking our A-League women's team to Ballymore, taking our A-League men's team to train at Ballymore. But I think that we've got to get rid of this rugby union, soccer. What we've got to get focused on, and let's build the best. If it needs to be multi-sport, let's build the best boutiques, multi-sport stadiums. If we can have our own, boutique football stadium like Adelaide has with Hindmarsh, like that's fantastic as well. But where we sit today, for me, it's around building better facilities so that there's a very clear line of sight as footballers develop, both boys and girls, and they can see the pathway. And that's been obviously a big job of ours as well to be able to reconnect with Football Queensland, show the young boys and girls a clear line of sight in terms of how they can develop and have an opportunity to be in and to be a professional footballer. But Suncorp is a tier one stadium. It's a 55, 60,000 seat stadium. We're so far off that as a football club. So to have a smaller boutique stadium that can hold 6 to 15,000 would be, immense for us as a business, and also from a match day experience for our fans.
Yeah. The
Brilliant.
whole Australian football is so far off that. It's not just Brisbane Roar. It's
True.
There's not one team in this country right now that can fill a stadium that size. And although
True.
we would all love to see that, it's just not realistic at this point in time. And we do need those small stadiums. But look, I don't know. For the people that are listening on Spotify, you can't see, but I've just been nodding my head the whole time because at the end of the day, the three of us, but not just us, people in football, we're football fans. We want to see football move forward in this country.
100%.
Your investment is in Brisbane Roar. Mine's in Western United as a player at the moment. But for football to grow in this country, every single team, every single club needs to be moving forward. And, I think everything you've spoken about, you've been so honest. The work that you and Kaz have done at Brisbane Roar is incredible, and it's obviously translating into results on the pitch as well. So, I take my hat off. I love the approach that you're taking. You're honest with it, and we all want to see football grow. And I think these are the people that we need to have, in charge and in positions of power to make football grow in this country. So, massive hats off to you, Zac.
No, thanks, Benny. Thanks, Steph, and thanks for the opportunity to come on the pod and just have an honest, candid conversation. Like I said, we could speak for hours because we're all so passionate about the game. And for me, it's really about, it's no ego here. I just want to see both the club and the league develop and improve. And I think that we have such an important role to play. Both as players, both as administrators, to really work together to not be in this position in 10 years' time. I want to see the game develop in the next 10 years. I want to see, each club have its own infrastructure, have its own assets, have the ability to attract the best talent. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about where we're going as a club. I think that the engagement and the supporter base over the last, to say 3 to 6 months has really re-engaged. And yeah, I'm very optimistic for the future.
Awesome. Well, we'll leave you to it. I'm sure you've got plenty plenty to do to keep creating, a lot for that club. But yeah, thanks for your time, and we'll see you soon, and good luck for the rest of the year.
Yeah, thanks guys. I
Cheers,
appreciate
Zac.
your time. Cheers, guys.
Football Friends with Ben and Stef is proudly brought to you by the Inner Game Journals, started by none other than our co-host Stephen Moore. The Athlete Performance Journals were created to help athletes of all abilities become more self-aware through goal setting and reflection. On or off the field, the mental side of the game is so crucial to help you feel and perform at your best. Head over to www.theinnergamejournals.com and use code FOOTBALLFRIENDS to get 15% off all products. If you're a club, school or academy, you're in luck. Stefan also runs workshops and he's just released the app version, which will allow you to give direct feedback to players. Download the app for free today. Search The Inner Game on the App Store.
Well, that was a very insightful chat, and I think, not just for the Brisbane Roar fans, but for everyone out there, those, without speaking to Kaz, I'm sure he has always echoing the same words as what Zac was speaking about, but those are the type of people you want running your football club, that they understand that he spoke about not sugarcoating anything, being as honest as possible with the situation they're in, but also then it seems like they've got a pretty clear plan of how they're going to become sustainable and how they're going to grow the brand to being, when we first started playing against them up at Suncorp, when there was 25,000, they would score, the den would go crazy, the fire would go up, and you're just thinking, get me home, get me on the flight. So it sounds very positive, and like you touched on as well, Ben, you said it's good for the league. We don't just want, you don't want 3 or 4 clubs to be successful and then the other 6 or 7 clubs to be going downwards. You want everyone to be progressing, everyone to be getting better, whether that was infrastructure. Not everyone can win titles, but you can all improve as clubs, and same with the second division clubs. We need to be working together and really growing everything. So a bit of a different one, not a player that's in the game right now, and a little bit more serious of a chat, but it was great to hear from him, and that's wrapping it up now. We've been on here for too long and wasting too much of everyone's time. So thanks for tuning in, and Ben will tell you exactly where you can find us.
Yeah, guys, as always, we're at Football Friends Pod on Insta and TikTok. We're at Ben and Stef Pod on X, and Football Friends with Ben and Stef if you prefer to see us instead of just listen to us, although you're obviously going to have to see Steph's head for over an hour, so you can make that call yourself. But thanks, guys, for tuning in. Thanks for coming back to another episode. It was a great insight with Zac Anderson, and we'll see you guys all next week.
Oh, Fred.
Fuck you lot, where's the beer?
Ever wanted to become a football agent? The John Viola Academy is an elite training and education program designed by world-class football agents to create world-class football agents. With online courses, personal mentoring and much more, the John Viola Academy provides you with every opportunity needed to achieve your dream career in the beautiful game as a football agent. Head to jvacademy.net/footballfriends or click the link in our show notes to book a demo call with the team and start your journey today.